Hi everybody, Scott for Angry Badger Minis back. Welcome to another live stream, and we are working on the final portion of our Grey Knights, which is the Venerable Dreadnought. I brought the camera in a little bit closer, so hopefully you guys can make out what I'm doing a little bit better, and it's not so boring. Although we are just cutting and gluing plastic. So, but before we get into this, okay. As you can see, we're already prepared. I wanted to bring up a point of note that I did not know this, or maybe I forgot all about it. My Sisters of Battle army that has these, I can't believe I just forgot what they're called. Oh my gosh. I hate when this happens. Hold on a second. What are these things called? I have it here. Penitent engines. I just realized today when looking at this what a poor design choice this was. Okay, and I don't mean poor design as in the model looks bad. It's, if you take a look at the saw blades, okay, there's nowhere for the saw blade to go over here when it turns. Literally nowhere for it to go. So the only if it were to be able to turn, so the only thing I can think to do is to paint it in such a way that it looks like there's a gap there. Other than that, there's no way. There's no way. Secondly, I'm looking at Battlescribe and I am seeing absolutely nothing on the Penitent engine that talks about the flamers that are part of the model. I don't know if it was an oversight from the Battlescribe crew or what the deal is, but it's not there. And unless I am missing it. Okay, I see it if I just let it hang over. Alright, so I stand corrected. Heavy flamer, 12 inches, blah blah blah. Okay, alright, cool. So, but that design right there, I even tried to rationalize it in my head, like how would maybe the blade folds in, but if it folded in that direction, just on a hinge, if you will, well, that's the cutting edge. It would fold in when it hit something as well, I would think. Let's see here. No, maybe it would fold out. I don't know. But either way, there's no hole there for it to spin. So just something interesting of note. Alright, so we're working on this. If you haven't noticed, I've got other models all the way around me. And what these are my Sisters of Battle that I've been working on actually for about the last couple of hours because I wanted to get a head start on them. My understanding, and I'm not going to worry about it, I'm already committed to this because I don't know when I would ever really be playing with these guys with anybody other than my family and friends. I am not, because they have the Guardian legs and they technically would be sisters from before. They're not the new models. I'm not changing the bases on these. I think it would be a waste. This is a kit bash project, years in the making, and we're not even sure exactly how it's all going to turn out. I'm confident it will turn out fairly well, but there may be some things that I have to do in the future. That being said, I'm working on some, I've been working on some color schemes. I'll tell you what, that MCAT, the MCAT app that I was telling you guys about, that thing is addicting, man. It really is. I've been making color schemes, seems like almost all day. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this, and, we'll talk about some things. I appreciate Arrow and Austin, your comments regarding my reaction video to the Angels of Death video, and Arrow saying that he wants me to do some more. So I am going to do one on Astartes, even though most of you have already seen it, and of course, like I said, I've seen it. I'm just going to point out some things, my observations and how I felt when I first saw it and whatnot. So not a big deal there. Let's see, where are your feet at, man? see. This shouldn't take too long. Also, if you were not able to watch the video from last night, especially Austin, again, you did not have to remortgage your house. We beat the orcs first go on Insane, but we did learn something about the Dawn of War game, and I don't know that there's any way around this. I mean, I guess if you're just really, good with the keys or whatever, the hotkeys. But in my personal opinion, I don't think the one map that I was playing is actually winnable by any stretch. Well, it wasn't against Chaos, I'll put it that way, on Insane. Because there's just too much distance, too much time, and I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna continue to try to fight Insane against Chaos on that board, on that map, because I refuse to give in. I may not do it necessarily on live stream, just because. So you'll have to take my word for it if I tell you that I beat it. But I'm actually having a lot of fun with with doing the Dawn of War streams. Let's see here. So I was telling somebody about my channel today. They're not into watching YouTube or anything like that. They're not into Warhammer or anything. But they asked me, why. And I just told them, it was a hobby kind of thing or whatever. And then coincidentally, about an hour later, I don't know if you guys ever watched Jeremy from the Quartering, or Midwestly is his other channel, his more politic channel, but I mostly watch the Quartering because of the gaming stuff and other stuff that comes out. He did a video. It's almost like it was just meant to be, but he did a video on a story about him, a portion about him regarding going to college and how he was kicked out and how he got back in, basically, and stuff like that. If you are interested, I encourage you to go watch it. I wouldn't want to spoil it. Guy's heck of a dude, and I've been watching him for years. And here I am, this budding YouTuber. But anyway, where I'm going with this is, it was interesting that happened right when somebody had asked me, why I'm doing the channel. So obviously, I'm huge into this hobby. I mean, that's no secret, right? The second thing is, I am looking to hopefully be in a position to where I am monetized. I'm hoping, of course, to have Patreon members and stuff like that, and I want to make this kind of a career, if you will, in a way, now that I'm out of the military and stuff like that. Now, I've been out of the military for a while, just being honest with you. I am, in fact, retired from the United States Marine Corps. Maybe I'll do something on that later, some other time. But after that, I did some contracting and things like that, and then met my wife and adopted a son, and we moved here to where we live currently and bought some property. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to become, business owners. So what ended up happening is I came up here a week prior to purchasing this property, because what I was purchasing was a gun range, a grandfathered gun range, as a matter of fact. And with what I used to do in the military, it was right up my alley, right in my skill set. And this might be a little bit of a long story, so I apologize. Feel free to, not listen, tune it out, or if you're watching this, you know, after the fact, feel free to skip forward. I just, you know, watching his video made me feel compelled to do this, and then of course the question that I received before. But anyway, I came up here a week prior from where we lived to make sure, considering all the polarization that goes on in the nation, you know, politics in general regarding guns and blah blah blah, knowing that it could be a potential issue. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form rich. For those of you that know know anything about the military and what we get paid, and you know, I mean, you'll completely sympathize with that. That being said, even as a retiree, it's not a lot. And while I you know, don't appear or look it, I am in fact a disabled veteran, combat veteran, and I'm going to leave that at that. But going with that, or moving on from that, as I'm looking, I feel like I'm missing. I always feel like I'm missing something from these pieces. I know I'm not. I just saw it. Oh, there it is. It was also a pet boarding kennel service thing here, which, you know, I'd never done, and my wife had never done. But I mean, we love animals, we love pets, so it seemed kind of like a no-brainer, other than, you know, the cost upkeep and the work that would be involved, you know, because you got to keep the pets healthy, just like, you know, you do yourself, especially when the owners are away and that kind of thing. And it's not, this place is not like any kennel that you would imagine. We don't have, you know, giant shelves of boxes to put your dogs in and stuff like that. They've got their own nice little kind of room and stuff. But anyway, back to the range. You know, I came up here a week prior, met with, you know, the local zoning administrator to make sure I was getting what I was going to be paying for, and that there weren't going to be any problems. Even asked for it all in writing, and you're going to love this one. When I asked, you know, can I get it in writing that it's a grandfathered outdoor shooting range, his words to me as he looked at me were, "What?" And I said I would like it in writing. Well, he said, "Well, we don't have anything like that right now." Now, I want you to put this into context, okay? When this thing was grandfathered was in 2007. I bought the property in 2017. So for over a decade, they had nothing in writing, or at least a decade, I'll put it that way. They had nothing in writing stating that this property was grandfathered as an outdoor shooting range. And why the previous owner didn't push for that, I don't know. But regardless, I wasn't going to spend my life savings on, you know, a property of 88 acres and whatnot to, you know, to come in completely blindsided. Nobody would, right? Well, he said, you know, okay, well, I don't have that, but can I get it to you? And I knew I was taking a huge risk. And I said, absolutely. And I knew that they could, at any time, with nothing in writing, they could turn around and put in whatever they wanted to. Well, fast forward a little bit, about a week or two after we moved up here, which wasn't long after that meeting, my wife, who everybody in the world loves, I mean, she's the nicest person in the world you'd ever meet, she turned around and, you know, decided she was going to go take cookies to the neighbors and stuff like that and try to meet people and make friends and stuff. Well, my wife is, you know, again, she's kind of a people person, where I may not necessarily always be, or may not have always been. And where she comes from, you know, a lot of nice folks, and, you know, she had a nice circle of friends and stuff. So now we're both far removed from who we know and what we know, for the chance at, you know, running our own businesses. She come back to the house really distraught. Point in fact, and this is why this will be important, is, or you'll see how this becomes interesting and important. Everybody she said she ran into had nothing positive to say about the other neighbors. Everybody basically hated one another. You know, and I said, well, there's nothing we can do about that. Let's just stay out of the drama. You know, we'll be cordial and friendly with, you know, whoever, and just, you know, don't contribute to any of the drama that may exist. You know, I mean, it's none of our business anyway, right? Well, we in turn met a couple people, and, you know, I thought we became friends, and that's how things were. And jumping ahead a little bit, those same people that we thought were friends for a couple of years, during the whole time that they were our friends, they were plotting behind our back. And what this all boiled down to for a couple of different factions, if you will, was one, a land grab, trying to basically steal our land by forcing us to not want to put up with this stuff and not be able to do what we came here to do, and then we turn around and sell it and they could get it on the cheap, which apparently was what they were hoping was going to happen with the previous owner, only he didn't want to sell to them. We didn't know anything about that at the time. I mean, it had never been mentioned, and of course we asked if there were any issues, and they nobody said that there ever were. Well, anyway, we meet this this other neighbor because we're told that oh, he's former Army, you guys might get along, blah blah blah, and because there was another piece of property that at the time I had some money left that I could spend to purchase it, and I figured it would be good not only to have more land. It wouldn't necessarily help us as far as the range goes, but it would definitely help preserve our view, because behind that property, about 1,500 meters or so from our property, is a sawmill, and it runs 7 days a week. Now I'm sure you can imagine that there's plenty of noise that comes from that, and that's fine. I knew that when I moved here, and that's part of the whole deal. Not to mention, we have a gun range and whatnot, and noise is a thing. Well, the same people we thought were our friends were the ones that own that sawmill, and anyway, this guy, this other, this Army neighbor, if you will, when I met with him, very obtuse right off the bat. He's a former lawyer, stuff like that, and because he basically got, I don't know if he got disbarred, but he basically ruined his career through ethics and stuff like that, and that's about as far as I'm going to go with it. But anyway, I could tell right off the bat he really didn't have it, didn't care too much for what was going to happen here. He moved here 3 years before we did, and of course the people we bought the property from were older than we were, so now you've got a young, vibrant couple in here that's, excited about their businesses and what they're going to do, and obviously we're going to put all of our effort into it. Well, that's not to his liking, clearly. So he ends up coming over the night, well, after I met with him and realized that this guy was probably going to be a problem. I even told my wife, I said, I give this 24 hours and this guy's going to make a complaint to somebody in the county. And sure enough, that happened. And they asked if they could come out and look at the property, that they had never been on the property before. So that's something to keep into perspective. If you think about it, I mean, this business here was built in 1992, the same year I went in the Marine Corps. And all this time, and that zoning administrator had been here since, I think it was, well, I don't know. Anyway, somewhere around, I think maybe somewhere around 27, 28 years, because he just retired this last June. And he retired because he was caught in over 25 lies in deposition, and we'll get to that. Well, anyway, this is your local, this is local government, man. I mean, you got all these, people that, they get in these jobs and they think that they're, elitist and whatever. So they come out here and they take a look. Well, first, that neighbor came over the night prior to ask us, or ask me, if he could come out during, the time that the county came out. Now, knowing what I know now, if I had known what I know now, I'd have said no, it's not going to happen. Especially since he's the one that made the complaint. But I was trying to play Mr. Nice Guy, and so I let him come out, and he was inside, and I had already committed to that, and he was inside our house talking to us, trying to give me this song and dance about his dream clashing with my dream or vice versa, because he raises cows and he's got to hunt to feed his family and blah blah blah. And at the time, I didn't know he was a lawyer and his wife was a pharmacist and all this other stuff. So you can clearly see where this guy's motives are and his dishonesty as it is. Well, I told him, I said, well, I even tried to compromise with the guy, and it got, where I offered to shut our businesses down because of the hunting that he claimed he had to do. And he looked me dead in the eye and told me that ain't good enough. And then he turned around and told me that he was going to do everything he could to get us shut down and that he was friends with the sheriff. Well, if I had been anybody else, maybe that would have intimidated me a little bit. And I don't mean to say that everybody's intimidated. I'm just trying to say that when you're put in that kind of position, sometimes, folks panic. I don't. Anybody can say whatever they can say. Somebody could say, hey, I'm going to sue you under the sun. Well, okay, go ahead. Anyway, guy leaves. They come out next day, look around the property, blah, blah, blah. And it's, I don't know, they are what they are. And we go, and coincidentally, it just happened to be the same day that we needed to actually get our business licenses. So we go in there, we get our business licenses, and I put on there, rifle and pistol, 3D archery, blah blah blah. Well, we get out of there, we got our business license. I don't remember exactly where it happened, but they had said something about they needed to talk to us or something. I don't know. But anyway, we go on, and we're running our businesses. We're having a good time. Well, I say we're having a good time. We're working our butts off. It's really what's going on. And turns out, all of a sudden, the zoning administrator is getting complaints about rifle and pistol fire. And the claim from the zoning administrator is that we were not grandfathered for rifle and pistol shooting. Only the sporting clays that were here. Well, that's not what my grandfather letter says. It actually refers to the ordinance, which the county lied about and said that they wrote. They didn't. They actually copied it from the state. And it became a really unfortunate thing that started a legal battle to the point that I was asked by the zoning administrator on the phone when he called to ask me about what was going on out here, as if he had some authority over me. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. They have the ability, to fight back against City Hall. I know the saying goes, you can't fight City Hall. Well, if you bear with this story, you're going to find out that you can. That being said, he asked me if there was rifle and pistol shooting going on out here, and I said yes. And before I could say my wife and my son and I were shooting, he immediately started yelling at me on the phone. Well, I'm sure you can imagine how well that went with a retired Marine. But I also did not retort back. I just stood there and listened, and he probably yelled for a good 2 minutes. I'm not exaggerating on the time. And I said, okay, we'll roll with this. Oh man, I don't know why you guys aren't seeing my camera. I just realized that something happened. Let me let's see here. I don't know why. I know it was on there before. Well, camera's working. Give me 1 second, guys. Man, I didn't even realize that went out. But and no, the phone is not dead. Let's see here. There we go. I basically said, okay, well, what do you want me to do? And the guy said I had to file for some kind of permit or whatever. And I said, all right. And, I just said, I'll get on it, take care of it. And I immediately called a lawyer because, again, I shouldn't need a permit because I'm grandfathered in. Let's see. All of a sudden now we're having some kind of crazy, stupid internet issue. Let's see here. Man, YouTube, what are you doing? I don't know what the heck's starting to upset me tonight. Let's see. Alright, can you guys hear me now? Let's see. Alright, can you guys hear me now? Maybe? Are we working? Come on, YouTube, what are you doing to me? YouTube, what are you doing? I'm in the green, YouTube's not in the green. This is great. Gosh, man. Good thing I'm not paying for this service, right? Come on, YouTube. What's going on here? YouTube. Where are you? I'm in the green. You're not in the green. Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah, I don't know why it's... I mean, I'm in the green and it's... Alright, well, anyway. Crap, where was I? Yeah, so I decided at that point, alright, we're going to have to get a lawyer because this is ridiculous. And again, let me remind you, I am not a rich man, okay, by any stretch. I'm just not. It is what it is. But that, going on with that, it turned into this whole thing where I basically, the reason I'm telling you guys this too, not just because I want you to understand why I'm doing this channel, but and why I'm trying to go monetize and stuff like that. But I want you to know what steps maybe you could take. I mean, this was a 4-year fight, by the way. So if that tells you how much money it cost my family, time and stress, I guess you can understand that. And I'm trying to share that information with anybody that I can, because nobody wants to have to do this. Most people can't afford it. Hell, we couldn't even afford it. Okay, but something had to be done, and I wasn't going to back down. I mean, I literally put my life savings into everything that we have here, and it's I wasn't going to let these people steal it from me. I don't care who it was, or whatever, and the attitude here was, well, I've lived here all my life. Right, okay, sure. And without sounding like a complete jerk, there are people all over the world in every country that serve in the military for their country or whatever, and that's their choice. Okay, I'm not trying to hold myself above anybody, but they do that to make sure that you can. Okay, and your choice was, of course, not to. So that being said, I just want to make sure that it doesn't sound like I hold any or harbor any grudges or whatever elitism towards anybody that doesn't serve. That's not the case at all. But just because a person has lived somewhere, let's just take the military out of it. Let's just say just because a person has lived somewhere longer than you doesn't give them any more rights than you have. And I'm sure you guys would all agree with that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Unless you are in fact literally ruining their lives in some way, shape, or form. But this is how these particular individuals, I guess, have done everything. Anyway, it went to what's called a Board of Zoning appeal, which we had to pay for, and that was the biggest kangaroo court you've ever seen. And let me explain how this worked out. They recorded everything on an iPad, okay, supposedly. However, everything was not recorded, supposedly also, because the iPad's battery died. Why you wouldn't plug the iPad in, I have no idea. Plus, I'm not too sure how many iPads have all that, that amount of, memory space to be able to be recording something that goes on for hours upon hours, right? Anyway, when you look back at the meeting minutes after everything that was said and the lies and everything else, and I mean there were some lies, let me tell you. Everything from supposedly ricochets, landing on people's property and, other stuff, which is funny because we had a surveyor that came out and actually found stuff on our property. But it was, it was kind of a moot point because, I mean, that's not what we were challenging, and I really didn't care. Anyway, when you look back at the meeting minutes, everything that we or our supporters, the people that were there in support of us, said was dumbed down to about 2 or 3 sentences. Okay? Everything that those against us said, it was word for word, full paragraphs. If that doesn't tell you what kind of corruption there is, I don't know what does. But we got to back up a step. One of the main reasons we were there is because when I challenged this, they came after everything. Not just rifle and pistol. They wanted to make it about everything. That we expanded the sporting clays range. We're operating outside of our permit, which we're grandfathered in. There's, as far as a use permit, it does not necessarily exist. They tried to, lie their way through, even so much as saying that the meeting that happened a week before I bought the property never happened. I was flabbergasted, to be honest with you. I was like, I can't believe they're going to get away with this. Our lawyer was amazing. And then you're going to love this. Literally a couple of weeks after that, even though the board sided half with us and half against us, they said that the county had no merit as far as the sporting clays range goes, but they couldn't find enough evidence to show that commercial rifle or pistol activity had been going on the property, which wasn't even part of what they were supposed to decide. That had nothing to do with it. It was about whether or not the ordinance, said that we could do that, which it does. But we'll get to that. They, my lawyer, a couple of weeks after, 36 years old, I believe is how old Will was, passed away. Laid down on his bed and just didn't get up. His family had a history of heart problems and stuff like that, and it was just like, holy smokes, I can't believe my lawyer's gone. Not to mention, I was kind of becoming friends with him, and he was a competitive pistol shooter and all kinds of stuff. But he had also told us before he did pass that if we wanted to challenge this in the circuit court, which we were going to, that we needed to get better lawyers because it wasn't something that he was, he was honest. He's like, I'm not prepared for this. You need somebody that is, because it may go to trial and so forth and so on. I said, okay, I appreciate that. And then, of course, Will, passed on. So we did. We challenged it in the circuit court, and a law firm that has been coming out to this property since, I guess 20 years now, long before we've, took the property over. They decided to help us out and take our case. They would actually sent representation to the Board of Zoning and put the Board of Zoning as well as the county's attorney in a panic, and the neighbor's attorney in a panic, because when he stood up to speak as an outlying citizen, the neighbor's attorney stood up, and at this point now we know who all the players are, to include our so-called friends. Is this guy, representing us, his Gentry Lock law firm representing us. And he was, you could clearly hear the intimidation and the, fear or uneasiness in his voice, like, holy crap, what happened? And, he said, no, we're just here observing, blah, 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 but this is what we know about the law, and you need to take that into consideration. Anyway, as we get to the end of the Board of Zoning, again, taking a step back here, as we get to the end of the Board of Zoning, the very last thing that was said, and it's interesting how when you go through these cases, you never get the last word. Okay, it's always the government. Doesn't matter who sues who, they always get the last word. And that part really, really annoyed me. Okay, because usually it's supposed to be a flip-flop kind of thing, who's suing who and how that works. Well, that's not how this worked. And anyway, they the zoning administrator, same guy that retired and lied and everything else, got up there, and he said, while we respect his military service, because I briefed everybody there basically who I was and what I had done, so that I could try to explain, help explain that this was not, some backyard operation with a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And I've had a very distinguished and privileged career, but he said, even while we're appreciative of his service and we're not questioning his integrity, everything he said tonight was false. So I'm not a liar, but I'm a liar. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me how these people like this, they just throw this stuff out there because they know that nothing's going to happen. I mean, short of me, going crazy or something and jumping across the chairs to attack someone or whatever, which I'd never do. I mean, it's amazing, what a person's willing to say and do, to meet, to get their own or meet their own ends. And then what really actually did upset me was those folks that, claimed to be our friends. What they did was they turned around, they didn't come to me, they came to my wife and said, because they figured, we weren't going to take it any further, I guess. They said to her, if you guys ever need anything, just come on over, even if it's a cup of sugar, blah, blah, blah. We were brought up to respect men like your husband and whatever, this isn't personal, it's just business. So all of the money that we've had to spend in fighting this thus far, thanks, William. All the money we've had to, to spend thus far that comes off of my family's table, you know what I'm saying? It's, it's not personal, right? So, the food that literally goes in my family's mouth. But, I mean, you're talking with idiots, in a way, if you even try to, argue. As the saying goes, don't argue with a fool, because they'll always bring you down to their level. And they're going to win, you know what I mean? So, my wife came and told me about that, and that was unfortunate. And, there were some people in that, in that meeting that learned some things that they didn't know. They were lied to. We actually ended up, becoming friends with some of the people that were initially against us, because they came over, checked out for themselves, and realized they'd been lied to. But that's, neither here nor there. So anyway, we challenged this stuff in the circuit court. Well, those that wanted to be involved as neighbors against us formed together, got an attorney collectively, and then of course the county hired their own attorney, because these neighbors, we sued the county. There's a thing called summary judgment, okay? And I'm not a lawyer, all right? So if you happen to be one, don't go after me here. But summary judgment, I was led to believe, is almost unheard of to win on a summary judgment, meaning that the law is a law. We don't need a trial, don't need witnesses. You're winning on the merits of the law as it is written. Well, first the judge threw out the neighbor's argument and said that they had no standing whatsoever to even be a part of the case, and they didn't anyway. I mean, by the letter of the law, they really didn't. Those that were participating in trying to make this more than what it was. The county's attorney didn't even show up. He sent some other guy, and you would have loved this. Guy showed up in a baby blue and white, small checkered jacket, as well as a pink tie and a haircut straight out of like the 50s, basically. Complete weirdo. I was surprised the judge even entertained him talking. To the point where this guy, the judge asked him, does the county, have anything to say in regards to, or take a position, with what, our neighbors, had to say. And the guy stood up and said, no, we're not taking a position, but we agree with what they're saying. I'm like, dude, that's taking a position. So anyway, so judge threw that out, and we had to come back for the rest of it. Just to give you an idea, too, of what we were facing, if you were to be in that courtroom, one side of the courtroom was full of people. They brought kids in, they brought elderly folks. I mean, it was full. I don't have that many neighbors anywhere near me, okay? But they filled up the courtroom for the sympathy vote, especially with kids. By the way, this is a weekday, so they took those kids out of school. It was not a holiday either. Secondly, if you looked on the other side of the courtroom, it was my wife and I, and that's it. So 2 people on one side of the room, of the entire courtroom, and the entire other side completely full of people. This is what you may run into when you're dealing with this kind of nonsense. Well, our lawyer did a very good job explaining everything. It even got to the point where the judge, looking at the grandfather letter, as well as a letter that our lawyer found regarding our sheriff's department around here, who coincidentally being the only people since the county put into place, what was grandfathered and what wasn't. The only organization or people that were able to open up another range, and they did it for the sheriff's department, which, I mean, who cares? I mean, they need a place to shoot, right? The judge even, called it out, looking at the ordinance, saying, if the sheriff's department is allowed to have whatever they want there, which, the county attorney had said they could, that there was no restrictions or whatever, and they're under the same ordinance as, we were, then how is it any different? And he threw the whole thing out on the summary judgment, or, we won on the summary judgment. Well, now the neighbors go and complain to the county board of supervisors to try to get them to vote, which they did, to take this to the state Supreme Court. The whole objective here, because they knew they weren't going to make me scared of them, the whole objective here was to drain me financially to where I would finally give up. Some of you probably understand this and know this. Well, again, you're dealing with the wrong person. I'm not saying it in a bragging way. I'm just saying I would have went and worked at McDonald's and done multiple. I'd have worked 24 hours a day if it meant fighting this, to have enough money to pay for everything. I mean, I'm sure you can understand how expensive it was. So they appealed to the state Supreme Court, and it took months and months before it was ever even heard. And long story short, the state Supreme Court, because of COVID, they did everything, online. So I actually even recorded everything. But I want to tell you guys about this because, I mean, it was a very brand new experience for me. Our lawyer didn't even get to speak because it wasn't our appeal. Another, lawism that I just thought was like the stupidest thing in the world. Because basically they can sit there, whoever you're against can sit there and say whatever they want, and you can't say anything back. So they could lie, and you can't refute it. It makes no sense. And of course, the whole thing was to be able to try to send it back to the circuit court for trial. But again, their goal wasn't the trial so much as it was to drain us financially. Well, anyway, they, hold on, I'm trying to, so we had no idea when that court case was going to go down. Regardless of what your political leaning is here on the channel, I want you to understand I don't hate anyone, okay? But in regards to, what I was fighting for, i.e. a gun range, right? And the fact that the board was, or the judge, the 7-judge panel, to my understanding, was completely left-leaning, or at least liberal. And liberal and left are not the same. Mainly because our attorney had worked up there and he knew who they were. He said they were great people. They were Boy Scouts, and they should do the right thing. They wouldn't do it on ideological lines, which I'll be honest, I was not real hopeful of that. Because of the political nonsense going in our country, right? So anyway, I'm listening to this thing all day long. I'm listening to every case. Every attorney that I got up there spent about 20-25 minutes briefing their appeal. And then the 3 judges that were overseeing all of this, the first step process, I guess, they would ask, I think they asked about 5 to 10 questions apiece. And then they would move on to the next case. And the way this works is, or the way it was, the way it works is, if you did not get, like, let's just say you got, you're appealing the case and you get a unanimous decision to appeal the case, it goes back to circuit court. If you lost, but one judge or two judges or whatever, we'll just say one judge, let's just say it was a 2-1 against you, then it would go before the 7-panel or 7-judge panel, and then, you know, be reheard that way, and then, you know, depending on the outcome, would either be done and over with or go to the circuit court. In our case, when it got up there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after listening to this stuff since 8 in the morning, the county's attorney got up there. He briefed for 7.5 minutes only. Every bit of it was a lie. And the judges asked no questions. So you can imagine what was going on in my head. I'm like, holy smokes, what just happened here? Like, did they already, you know, is this already decided? You know, I mean, is it a gun issue thing? You know, whatever, you know, ideological, blah, blah, blah. And so anyway, 6 to 8 weeks before we can get it, you know, find out what's going on. 6 to 8 weeks goes by, and we get the notice that it was 3-0 in our favor. Obviously, everybody's excited. I mean, I say everybody's excited. We're happy that we won. And then we find out that the local government, the county, gets an automatic rehearing because they are the government. Understand something. I've told people, and I even told the board of supervisors before they appealed, that they were going to be using taxpayer funds to do this. These people had the nerve to tell people in the county that asked them why they were spending taxpayer money to fight something we already won, that it wasn't taxpayer money. They had insurance. Well, anybody with half a brain knows we're paying for the insurance, right? So anyway, you know, plus deductibles and everything else as it goes. So, but because they're government, they get an automatic rehearing, which means even though we had a unanimous decision, now it gets an appeal is sent to the 7-panel or 7-judge panel. So what I told you about, you know, whether or not you win or lose and how it works out, that's for normal folks. That has nothing to do with the government. It's crazy. Well, that means another 6 to 8 weeks to wait. Because the county, of course, appealed. Automatic, you know what I mean? 6 to 8 weeks goes by. It comes back 7-0 in our favor. The county was smacked down twice. Now, going back into the original premise of telling you all this story, this whole story, you can imagine, again, how much it cost my family. Not just in lawyers' fees and that kind of stuff, but lost revenue, which was the biggest killer, because we literally had people tell us they wanted to come frequent our businesses, but until the litigation was over, they weren't going to do it because they didn't want to get drug into court. And I respect that. I mean, there's nothing, it's not like they would have been called as witnesses anyway, but I mean, it is what it is. So we win, right? And then what happens? COVID. So people aren't coming, you've got the ammo shortages, which is obviously, the biggest driving force of people coming here to this business, you name it. Because of we're going to come take your guns and blah, blah, blah. So that is the long and short, if you will, of why I am here in addition to my hobby. So I hope you guys either you learned something and then hopefully I didn't waste your time. But as you guys can see as we're talking through this, I'm almost done with this dreadnought. I haven't even literally been thinking about what I'm doing here through this whole conversation. And thankfully this video will actually probably serve as a good archive for this whole story to keep me on par for whenever or if I ever have to tell it again. So what is the takeaway from this for myself? Well, through the process of trying to defend my family's interests and our assets, really, I learned a lot about the corruption in my local government here. And I am now running for our board of supervisors. I don't know if I'll win. I have a lot of support. And my goal is to educate our community on how the game is played and look after them in regards to, you know, taxes and everything like that, that it seems like these people right now just don't even care about. So am I going to say that everyone can win? No. And regardless of what your religious beliefs are, I believe that's a huge part, because I didn't give up, and because, you know, my wife and I both believe that the truth, you know, would set us free, and that, you know, at least for our religion, that God was going to look after us, because we knew we were, you know, we were in the right. It was all about integrity and honesty, and we knew that no matter what these guys lied about, which they did a lot of, we were still going to win, and we did. So there you have it. That is why I am on YouTube. A big portion of it, why I want to be monetized anyway. And I'm hoping that we can, you know, eventually meet that subscribe goal of, what is it, 1,000 people and 4,000 watch hours. So yeah, like my wife just said, tell your friends. You know, if you want to tell them the story how we fought, you know, the big bad government and won, and now we're trying to make up stuff, that's fine. The easiest way, of course, to support us would be on Patreon, because I don't have to worry about, you know, YouTube and their nonsensical rules. But, you know, I'm not just here. I mean, obviously you guys have seen my models and stuff. I'm not just here just because of that, but it is, you know, it is a driving force that I'm hoping that, you know, will help support my family. So I didn't even know or realize that I was ever going to actually bring this kind of stuff up. But again, something happened today, you know, watching, well, with the one person asking me, and then watching Jeremy, you know. So we lost somebody. I guess I ran you off. No, that was a long story, I understand. How long was that story? Dang, that was almost an hour. Alright. Does that mean you guys want me to shut up? Who's left? Arrow, you still there? William, you still there? Or did you go off to play video games or something? Alright, why is this not gluing down? Oh, there it goes. Can
I tell you something?
Yeah. 1 second, everybody. What's up?
Stephanie shared with Steven what's been going on. She was trying to handle it without getting him involved.
Why?
Because she didn't know that it was this big of a deal until today.
Okay.
She thought it was one kid. And Steven's pissed. He started calling dads. He called Fred, and Fred's going to a funeral tomorrow. And the boy who we think really started it, James Duncan, he immediately called his dad, and he's at a funeral today. He does not, like, this kid stays with the mom, you know. And the dad's like, as soon as I see my son, I'm handling this. This is not okay. You know, he was really upset, and Steven's like calling everybody pissed, and he said he's definitely going to meet with Pastor Phillips on a one-on-one and express how this is not happening again.
How it was handled wrong.
Yes.
William's actually watching my show. I mean, it's
cool.
muted, but
Yeah.
I haven't said anything.
Yeah.
It's not my place, really.
Right. And Matthew did open up tonight and tell his parents that there was a little girl involved laughing at him. So I will bring that up to Eric, that this girl was involved in it also, so they know who to look out for, you know, in the halls and stuff, what they're saying to Matthew or if they're around him. But Stephanie said she really appreciates our support as a family and how we are standing up for Matthew. And I said, we love you guys. Like, you know, you're great friends, and we think the world of Matthew, and we will always fight for him.
Well, I mean, nobody ever sees me or talks to me, so I mean,
maybe you can let them know that I do care.
I said us as a family, we all care, yes. And that it matters, all of this matters to us. And so, when I wrote that, I said Scott and I, you know, and then I told her how we said to Eric that if he wants to be a Marine, he needs to go to school and act like a Marine and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And that is why he's going to confront these kids tomorrow and say, you know, I heard what happened and this is not okay.
Yeah.
So she was like, you know, I'm so happy that you guys are our friends and we appreciate